A tech blogger manages to land a chance to interview a tech guru, prevents an attack on his life, and then comes into possession of a mysterious ring that allows him to rewind time by 57 seconds. He quickly discovers that it then takes a further 57 seconds for the ring to recharge before it can be used again, only allowing for short changes to be made in the 57 seconds prior to activation. However, as he begins using the ring, initially for personal reasons, he unwittingly sets in motion a chain of events that see him caught up in a dangerous corporate warfare. This sounds like an interesting concept. And with Josh Hutcherson in the lead role as the blogger, Franklin Fox, with support from Morgan Freeman as the tech guru Anton Burrell, and Greg German as the corrupt tech CEO Sig Thorensen, as well as Bevan Brew and Lovey Simon on hand, this should, on paper, be a decent, if not entirely original, slice of sci-fi. However, this isn't paper. This is film. And somewhere along the way, every ounce of potential has been wrung dry, leaving a dead husk of a film that really tested my patience within the first 57 seconds and never really made anything of the intriguing idea on offer. To be fair, Josh Hutcherson tries his best with what he's given, but when that includes his early playing with the time jumps being done in order to manipulate his way into the heart, and indeed the bed, of love interest Jala, Lovey Simons, it all feels a bit icky and a bit creepy at that point. While seemingly trying to play that moment for laughs, it damages any chance there is for me to care about Franklin from that point on. Morgan Freeman is clearly just cashing a check here, with a phoned-in performance which sees him drift on screen only a couple of times, accompanied by a mysterious cultist-looking follower, whose story is probably a lot more interesting than the actual film itself, but it's never divulged. As the film ramps up the pedal, it all builds to what should be an exciting finale, but instead, it just leaves a bad taste in the mouth through some crazy coincidences and impossible to escape from situations. Director Rusty Cundiff typically has entertained with comedy output over the years, with films such as Fear of a Black Hat, the hip-hop mockumentary from the 90s, which is a personal favourite of mine, and the Tales from the Hood horror comedy anthology series of films. But here, he feels completely out of his depth, delivering a lackluster sci-fi action thriller that doesn't quite know what it wants to be. It's flat-looking and sloppily written. It's 57 seconds that you want back, followed by the remaining 99 minutes. And of course, in the UK, it landed the 3 words of terror, A Sky Original. And it fits that label perfectly. Rennie Harlin, who gave us films such as Die Hard 2, The Long Kiss Goodnight, Deep Blue Sea, and Cliffhanger, brings us another action thriller, one of at least 4 new releases coming this year. He's got 3 films lined up, confirmed, which are The Strangest Chapters, and there's another 2 films still awaiting release dates. However, this is also the same Rennie Harlin, whose output included The Exorcist: The Beginning, The Legend of Hercules, The Misfits, and The Covenant. So don't get your hopes up. With The Bricklayer, the wholly generic and unoriginal setup sees a retired CIA operative who now works as a bricklayer brought back into action when a presumed dead adversary of the agency starts a killing spree, taking out other agency workers. Working off the books due to the belief that there's a corruption within the agency itself, the bricklayer, Steve Vale, played by Aaron Eckhart, sets about tracking down his adversary, Radek, played by Clifton Collins Jr., with whom he has a personal connection. Nothing about this film is original, and even if you've only seen a handful of films through your life, you would immediately recognise all the elements in here as the film plods along, insisting on throwing as many cliches and tropes as it can at the wall and seeing what sticks. Now, that would all be fine if the cast seemed to actually care for what they were doing, and indeed, recently, The Beekeeper churned out a similar ex-agent trying to retire drawn back to hunting down and taking out bad people, and at least had fun with the idea. Here, however, right from the start, the film looks washed out and cheap, not aided by some absolutely atrocious character choices, which make the whole thing a bit silly. Radek dresses in the most cliched villain manner, whilst the director of the CIA, O'Malley, played by Tim Blake Nelson, is hilariously presented with a forced serious intensity that makes the covert meetings, generally in cafes, come over like amateur dramatic presentations. Aaron Eckhart doesn't do enough to carry the film. He delivers the kind of role that Liam Neeson churns out these days, only without any sense of threat. In addition, I know it's picky, but I doubt his skills as a bricklayer. Having seen the results of his work and how flimsy it all is in an early rooftop fight, I guess that's probably because he strangely chooses to work at night with limited lighting, but that's beside the point. This is the kind of Sky original that used to have Bruce Willis's name attached to it, with Eckhart seemingly stepping into the gaps of mediocrity left after Willis's retirement a couple of years back. The action moments try their best to lift things, but when encumbered by such a bland script and even blander line delivery, it all falls apart. Had the film been a little more self aware and perhaps played a little bit tongue in cheek, it might have carried itself along. But unfortunately,